Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the New Money Media Mentoring Program with Infopreneur Agency and the New Economy Chamber of Commerce. Today we are here on call 4 to help you further expand on your interview skills and your speaking skills that we've been building up to, and help you position yourself on our New Money Radio show, which will be featured on over 170 stations. Just a reminder, that includes ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, and many more, putting you on a pedestal, putting you in front of them as the expert and the authority in your industry. All right. So just another quick reminder, some of you might not have, some of you might be watching this who have not been on the previous calls. What this is a 90-day program to, again, help you with your interview skills. What we will be sharing today is we'll be reviewing last week's session on what makes you credible, what makes your interviews interesting, what makes you interesting, and what makes you an authority in your industry. And then we'll be practicing, giving you some chance to practice your skills and get feedback from us, Omar and Mike. And in case you don't know, just another reminder, Mike and I have, many years, about a combined about 40 years of experience in marketing, in the industry of media, and Mike especially with 30 years experience in big time media, working with NBC for 20 years, and I think CNN TV for 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. Okay. I don't know, Mike, you're muted, but anyway. Don't worry about it. Just wanted to reintroduce ourselves so you guys know that where we're coming from and how we can help you. All right. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start the sharing of my whiteboard that I like to draw on. And we're going to get into review. So let me check with you guys. I'm going to just, let me see here. How many of you have been practicing and reviewing and are all caught up on all the good stuff? Just raise your hand if you have. Yes, Melody, thank you. Good. I know you are. And Curtis, what about you? I just want to check because I know you're actually one of our members, paying members. Did you have you been caught up yet? Curtis, are you there?
Wait, Omar, this is Curtis. I am not caught up yet.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully you'll get caught up today. And Dana, what about yourself? Just want to make sure.
Unfortunately, I've been traveling for the last 2 weeks, so
okay.
I have not been able to. I'm going to be traveling again next week, unfortunately.
Gotcha. All right. Well, in any case, you'll get a chance to review the recordings. You really should definitely do that, you guys. All right. So let's see here. We're going to review right now. Okay, this is a big question. This is what we covered last week. Let me just put this on the board. Who wants to answer this question? Now, this is $1 million question here. Who decides whether or not you are credible? Just unmute yourself and spit it out. Anyone can answer this?
The listener.
All right, great job. That was Curtis with the listener. Thank you. And yes, that is true. That is the answer, you guys. And all right, so let me ask you another question, a follow-up question. Who decides if you are an expert?
I do.
Okay. Well,
And experience too, your customers.
Yeah, your customers, right. Well, I think you're both actually correct. You can decide if you're an expert or not, which is important to know. We talked about, I think Curtis might even know about this too, the spectrum from expert and witness. I think it was on call 3 or call 2. Knowing where you stand on your topic. If you are, hold on, I got to just check something real quick. Hold on. Okay, cool. Sorry. For a minute, I thought we weren't recording. All right. So you got to know where you stand on the expert and witness spectrum on your topic. All right. So if you don't know what that means, just watch the last review. You should know. So all right, Melody, I'm gonna call on you since you have been here and you've been one of our best students. Why would it be important for you to know and to be honest about if you are an expert or not?
Because you can still be an authority whether or not you're an expert. And if you represent yourself authentically, you're going to have more influence and more ability to persuade people.
All right, awesome. Great job. That's exactly correct. So again, you guys, it's important to know where you stand and to be honest about it, upfront about it, and not try to pretend that you are an expert on something that you're not. And if you, the witness, what that means is being someone who has learned from someone or from some study, some statistic. So you want to cite your sources if you are not the actual source yourself, right? And as an expert, the person who determines that is just like the person who decides if you're credible. It's the listener, all right? Because they're listening and they decide how much of an expert you are to them, okay? Because, for example, if you've been doing whatever you're doing for, let's say 5 years, and you have some expertise, you have some experience, you have something under your belt, compared to a newbie, someone who has never, ever done it before, that is, to them, you are an expert, right? But even if you don't consider yourself an expert, right? And if on that topic, right? But if somebody's been doing it for maybe 20 years and has gone through a lot more experience than you, maybe they are an expert to you, and you might not be an expert to them, right? So it all comes back to the listener, all right? Now let me see. This is the final follow-up question. What about who decides if you are interesting? Anyone want to guess?
The listener.
All right, great job. That's spot on. So again, they decide if you're interesting or not you, right? All right, cool. So with that said, I'm gonna just paste this in here in a moment. Here's the next follow-up question for you guys. So what makes your interview interesting? And it's a little bit of a trick question, but let's see if you can take a guess. Anyone want to guess? What makes your interview interesting? This is what we talked about last week.
Connecting with your audience.
All right, one person. Let me let Dana go. I just want to go ahead.
Connecting with your audience.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great answer. Awesome. And who else was saying something? Someone else said something?
It was me. Stories.
All right, cool. Yeah. So let me just type that in here. Melody said stories, and that's true because they do. Stories do make it interesting, and there are a lot of other things that you can say in your interview that will make it interesting. But the biggest thing you need to know is, like I said, there's so many other things you can say, like your credibility, problems, myths, and shocking statistics, things in the news, etc. There's a lot of stuff you can say, but it won't be interesting unless it appeals to the listener. You guys following this?
Yeah.
Got it? All right, cool. So I'm gonna just paste in some of these ideas here. So on this topic, just to continue on that, should put this here maybe. So these are a list of kind of examples. There's a lot more, like skeptical questions that you answer, myths and misconceptions, shocking statistics, problems, and specific success stories of you or your clients. All of those things are really interesting, but again, they all should they should all be about your listener, related to your listener. So in other words, you want to talk about the listener's problems, how the problems affect the listener, how the myths and misconceptions affect the listener, okay, and etc. Same goes for all of these. So I know, just checking in earlier, that a lot of you did not follow the last week. So make sure you go through the last week's call recording, and this will make a lot more sense. If it's not clear enough here, okay? So let me see. Just want to make sure everyone's caught up. Does everyone understand this, at least the main point here that I'm making? You guys are getting this? Yeah? Okay,
Yes.
good. Yes. Awesome. Appreciate your feedback, all right? So let's see. Now, last week, what we did was we mentioned, a lot of the stuff here that I just talked about. And we wanted to help you decide which are the talking points that are good to mention and which are best to leave out. I want to actually post this here. This is one more part of the review that kind of sums all of this up, and it might be a little rhetorical, but I want to make sure you guys 100% get this. So which talking points, based on what I just said right now, which talking points about you are good to mention and which ones are bad, or the ones that you don't want to mention at all? Anyone want to take a guess?
I didn't quite understand the question.
Okay. Cool. Let me just clear this up. I'm going to just put it on a new thing here. So which talking points are good to mention and which are not good to mention? It doesn't have to be specifically about you. I'm just saying in general. If you're looking at all of your talking points, meaning your stats, your credibility, the stories, problems, myths, all of those things, which of those are good to mention on your interview and which ones should you not mention? And I know it's a little trick question. I want to see if anyone can guess. This has to do with what we just covered.
You want specifics?
Just in general, because I don't know anything about your story. Let's say I don't know anything about you guys. I just want to know which are good to mention and which are not.
I'll jump in there. This is Melody.
Good.
I would say the talking points that you want to cover are going to have broad audience appeal, relate to a lot of people, hopefully everybody in some way. And the ones you want to avoid are the ones that don't appeal to very many people.
Awesome. That's spot on. So did you guys get that, you guys?
Yes.
So what she's saying is the stuff that is good to mention are talking points that would appeal to a broad audience, meaning the listeners of a radio show, because we're talking about the radio here, If it was a small group of specific demographic, very, very specific people, then obviously you would want to focus on just them, But because we're on the radio, you're going to be listened to by hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people in their cars, in their families on on road trips or wherever else people listen to radio, right? So you got to appeal to everyone listening, including the adult, their relatives, who they care about, what they care about, and the people in their family, everyone you can imagine that they care about. So neighbors, their community, their city, their town, their state, their country. All right. So we want to expand, and by the way, even worldwide. Okay, because these radio stations are going to be worldwide. It's not just in the U.S. So keep that in mind, right? And the bad, like what Melody said, is a narrow audience. So how do you turn the bad into good? It's a real simple solution. And this was actually part of the assignment last week. I'm going to just go ahead and tell you. No more time for guesses. So the way you convert your bad into good, simple answer is you reword it. You make a list of all of your talking points, and you decide which ones are only talking to or only appealing to a small demographic, and you expand on that. You want to just reword it in a way that appeals to more people. So if you're targeting just women, you want to talk about how men can also benefit from that topic, right? Whatever you're saying. If you're targeting just like students, college students, you want to talk about how that problem, that topic appeals to the students' parents, the students, the school itself, and their family members, their neighbor, right? Everyone. So I know this is very generic. I'm explaining this in a very generic way just to kind of review it real quick, because it was all about, this was all mentioned last week, and we explained this very much more in detail. All right.
Omar, can you upgrade Carl and Lucy? I can't.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry about that. Just one moment. Just a moment here. And
so, Omar, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl.
So your point is that all of those questions, there wasn't inherently a bad or a good thing to share. It was all relative to your audience, and you really have to take a moment to think about them before you start engaging with them.
That's exactly right. Perfect. You got it. So honestly, there really is nothing, I'm not going to say there's nothing bad you can say, because there are some things you could say that obviously would destroy your reputation and destroy your whole entire everything, if you say the wrong thing. But of course, we're going to be editing stuff on our calls, our interviews and our shows, and we're going to be guiding you to make sure that you do say the good things, the right things, and help you get that expanded to a wider audience, right? So anyway, what I would like for everyone here to do is start making these lists of all the things that we talked about that are really interesting, that would make your interview interesting. I'm going to put it up here. This was on the last call. Again, actually, let me just clear it all. Put this up here. What you're looking at here is a list of things that would help make your interview interesting. So I'm going to just go through kind of brief and then explain each one a little bit more in detail. So sound bites, USP, UVP, which is the unique selling proposition or unique value proposition, what makes you and your service unique. Humanity, this is a little bit of a new one that I haven't mentioned yet. Basically, it's a way of you just connecting to people in an emotional level. So you don't have to be so logical and super about numbers and all that. If you talk about, we call it humanity. It's like things that make you a human, not a robot, right? So things like that, stories, things that bring up emotional responses, those are good. Concrete language, and this pretty much goes for pretty much everything. Anytime you can use concrete language versus abstract language or generic, language, you can speak a lot more powerfully, and it just it paints the picture in the listener's mind. So anytime you can use very specific language, is super golden, okay? And shocking and controversial facts, things, facts, stats, statistics, big numbers, big things you can share that are shocking. You can find a lot of stuff about your industry in the news, or just look up some studies. And of course, again, you got to cite your source. So, all right. And then myth busts, any kind of myths, misconceptions that you can bust. All right. These are huge. Okay. These are awesome. So definitely use those. And speaking to the skepticism, what I mean by that is people have already skeptical questions skeptical thoughts about your topic that they really, they really want to get answered. And the interviewer is going to ask you those questions because that actually puts you on a higher level than the people who try to avoid those questions, right? It's like there are other people in your industry, if you think about it, that, they fear that, someone's going to ask them something skeptical and they don't know the answer to it. But if you know how to deal with skepticism and you do that live, on an interview, and, you just confront it even before it even comes up, then that puts you automatically in a way that makes you seem that you actually care about what people think, and you are aware of the skepticism and you're not avoiding it. Okay. And then of course, stories. So stories about yourself, stories about your clients, any kind of success stories, even problem stories, like meaning the opposite of success, stories of misfortune, stories about how your industry has changed, okay, because of the new economy, in particular, since we're talking about that on our show. All right, so you guys need to write these down. Just put this in your notes before I clear it up. And what I want you to do is, this is going to be your homework, you guys. This was last week, and this is kind of expanding on it. You're going to make a list of each and every one of these. Make a list, and just make a list of these. Decide, what are your myths? What are the skeptical questions? Like, what are some stories you can tell? What are some shocking facts? And, et cetera. Concrete language, obviously, it's appeals to everything, right? And then what are some things you can say about whatever you talk about to make it more emotional, more touching, okay? If you have any, right? If not, of course, you don't need to. And then what is your USP? What is the thing that makes you unique and your service unique and better than everything else, okay, out there in the market? So just write all of these down, and sound bites. Sound bites, if you have any at all, any little sayings that you just say to your clients or to people, things that you believe in, it takes a little practice, but just start writing a list and your mind will start coming up with them. Some examples is, as mentioned before, hopefully I say it good this time. If you fail to plan, you'll be planned to fail. That's a soundbite. The way you've been doing business, the way you've been taught business is a big fat lie, or something like that. That was from Joe Nicasio. Pretty much anything you can think of that kind of makes people like, that's also a shocking fact as well, by the way. So anyway, I just want you to make a list of these. So have that in your notes, start making lists. And what you're going to do is you're going to aim for having up to 10 on each of these, okay? So what you're going to do is get 10 sound bites, 10 ideas of things that make you unique, your service unique, 10 anything that you can think about with humanity, and controversial facts, myths, and skeptical questions, and stories. So real, brief bullets, just kind of list them out. And what you're going to do with those 10, we're going to decide which of those 10 appeal to a broad audience. And if not, how can you reword it in a way that does appeal to a broad audience? And which of them are just really, really important for you to share that, make people really interested and really want to get their ears glued to the radio, basically. So we're going to just, out of those 10 of each, you're going to turn that into 3 of each, the top 3. And then eventually you might even just have 1 for each of them. Okay. You're aiming for 10, But if you can't figure out 10, don't worry. Just keep, do as many as you can and, move on. All right. So, and then the way you're going to find out which are the 3 and then which is the 1, you're going to ask someone in your group or in your immediate, your family member or partner or anyone you can associate with. And you're going to just ask them which of these, or actually this is a better way of doing it. Just read them out loud to them. And as you read them, have them raise their hand if they think it was interesting to them. Okay. And of course, what I also want you to do, that's just one way of getting feedback. But here on these calls, you're going to be sharing these stats and these talking points with everyone on the call here next week, okay? And you're going to be sharing them out loud. We're going to give you feedback. We're going to actually tell you, we're going to raise our hands to tell you if it was interesting or not, okay? Or impactful, okay? Does anyone have any questions? Any questions? I know this is those of you who are just catching up right now, this might seem like a lot, but it's super crucial for you to have, not just for our interview, but for, we're preparing you for the big leagues so you know what people want to hear. Let me just check again. Any questions? Have everyone so I could see. Nope, no questions? Good. All right, cool. And welcome, Lucy. It's the first time we're seeing you here. Good to have you. All righty. Cool. All right. And with that said, does anyone have any of this already who has actually done the homework or has anything that comes to mind that you want to share right now, and we can give you some feedback? So again, these are things about you, your story. It can be about, stats, whatever else, sound bites, any of this. You just want to share, go ahead and share it right now. Anyone? All right, Melody, thank you. Let's get Melody on here.
Okay, yeah, so I actually worked on that this past week because
awesome.
I only came up with 1, so I have more work to do for this assignment. But
and before you do, one more thing. Everyone else listening, I want you to just listen and just pay attention to see if it does affect you. If you feel interested, if you heard this on the radio, would you want to hear more? That's the question you want to ask to yourself. Okay.
So I'm just going to jump right to, it's a shocking statistic. So we're all fascinated with real estate. I've never seen so many shows on buying houses, staging properties, and flipping houses as we have now. And it's an area that we're all fascinated with. And the real estate market impacts all of us, whether you rent or you own, you're impacted by it. But did you know that in the same industry, the real estate experts that we rely on have a 75% fail rate? So 75% of real estate agents leave the industry before their 1-year anniversary.
Awesome. All right. So I would just summarize that just for everyone else, FYI. That was great, Melody. That's a great shocking statistic. I would just say, 75% of real estate agents, end their career in the first year. Like that alone, just one bullet, it's one sentence. You don't need to give us any feedback, background before that. So that was a shocking stat. Let me ask you guys, is that interesting enough for you guys? I mean, did this pique any interest to you? Just raise your hand if it did. I can see you guys. Okay.
Oh,
Mike, did you say something?
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. I really did, because I think she's right. That it is an exciting field, and people dream of being a successful real estate agent. A lot of times you're out with people, beautiful houses, but with a statistic like 75%, that's an eye opener. And I think I would use a sentence like, I can help you increase your odds of achieving success dramatically. I think that's really important because nobody can guarantee success, but you can do things that reduce odds and increase odds. And I think what Melody is bringing to the table is a program that can dramatically increase your odds of achieving success. Who doesn't want the odds working in their favor? So that's kind of my reaction to it. I think you're on a very good track there that could be developed as much as you want, really. There's a lot of fodder there to talk about.
Right on. And of course, that goes for everything. That's just one stat that you mentioned. And I'm glad that, we got some good response. The majority of people raise their hand and they said, yes, this was interesting. Of course you can build on that, but right now we're just we're just seeing if it's interesting or not. Yes or no. That's all we're looking for. Appreciate the feedback though, Mike. So that again is a good fact. The only feedback I would add is, you said 75% of real estate expert or agents, close down business in 1 year. Two things to elaborate on. First, who says who? That's my big question. As a skeptic, like says who? Are you the expert or did you hear this in a study somewhere? Right? So Melody, hope you got that. If you're going to mention something like that, especially for shocking statistics, you want to definitely cite the source, right? So according to blah, 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 agency, whatever else, a study in 2012, whatever, 75%, yada, 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 right? So get used to citing your sources if you're not the one who has declared it, okay? The other thing is you want to elaborate a little bit more. What I would recommend is elaborating on that. So 75% of agents have failed in the first year. Now, how does that affect everyone, okay? So just write that question down. You want to, elaborate a little more. What does that mean? So 75% are, they failed, but why do I care? As a person, just, listening to the radio, right? Melody, is all this making sense? Is this good?
Yes, thank you. So I should do the shocking statistic first and then get background as to why they should care about it instead of the other way around.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
And even, again, we're just getting some, sharing some stats, sharing some of these talking points just to get some feedback if it's appealing or not. But yeah, on the actual interview, you will want to actually pre-frame it. Again, we're not talking about this right now, but I'm just going to give you a heads up. What you will want to do is say, you want to prepare people to get ready to hear something shocking. All right. So you know what, Mike, I'm going to tell you something that is going to blow your mind. And it's going to blow a lot of people's mind. Most people don't know this, but according to blah, blah, blah statistic, 75% of, yada, yada, yada. And that is, it's causing this problem for people, this problem for that, for these other people, it's blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So anyway, just want to, hopefully you got that, but that's like a future lesson. Right now, again, we're just reviewing these little bullets. So great job, Melody. Really great job. Anyone want to step up to the plate and share another one of these talking points that you think would about you, your story, your business, your industry that would, appeal to listeners? Anyone want to step up? All right, Lucy, I saw you raise your hand. Hold on, let me unmute you. Are you able to unmute yourself, Lucy?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
All right. We'll just see if this is interesting to people. I don't have, the source right now, of course, but there are sources. So this is pretty shocking because, first of all, everybody, I'm a health expert. I'm a nutritionist and an exercise physiologist. And I have a book out right now it's called Eat to Lead. So this is a pretty shocking thing. We have a lot of diets out right now that are focused on mainly eating meat, or there's one that's becoming very popular, the keto diet, that's focused on eating 75% or more of your foods. 75% or more of your food consists of fat. But here's the thing, and there's a lot of bad rap for carbohydrates. Here's the thing. Carbohydrates will reduce your cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone that we have in our blood, and cortisol we know is actually is good because it helps us to fight, and it helps us to energize ourselves to do things that are difficult, right? But we also need that stress hormone to go down, because if we don't, we'll start to gain weight and we'll start to have illness from too much stress hormone. So without carbohydrate, it's very hard to get the cortisol levels down. And carbohydrate actually increases insulin, which has also gotten a bad rap. But insulin is the alternate hormone to cortisol. Insulin up, cortisol down. Cortisol up, insulin down. Okay, that was just the first try. But do you think it's interesting?
Awesome. Thank you for the courage to go and participate here.
Sure.
So, Lucy, I know this is your first time here. I hope I'm going to ask you ahead of time. Are you open to feedback?
Oh yes, sure.
Okay, great. Always got to ask for permission. You guys remember that. So, how many of you feel that this was interesting? Just hearing that, just raise your hand. Okay. Cool. And Curtis, I can't see you, so I don't know if you're raising your hand, but
yes. The
okay,
answer
cool.
is yes.
All right. So here's another thing. Can anyone repeat what Lucy said?
Cortisol, insulin.
All right. And Lucy, was this which of these elements would you say your little message falls into? What you were trying to share was a shocking statistic?
I would say it's shocking and controversial, for sure.
Right on. Yeah, controversial.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely got that. So, all right. Well, I'm going to just open it up. Anyone want to share any kind of feedback? Because I know you guys are probably more educated. And all right, Mike, go ahead.
A couple of things. I think Lucy was really smart in a number of ways. One, I would like everybody to remember that in some ways, there's another part of this meeting, I'll just keep this real quick, that is a networking meeting as well. And so Lucy shared with all of us as potential customers of hers that we as entrepreneurs can have more energy. And that she's somebody that we could go to, just like we can go to Dana or Melody, and we can all help in all aspects of this. So let's all remember that we're always sharing, and but I also think to tie it into this group, what you could have done, Lucy, is go, hey, we're under stress. We're entrepreneurs. We work hard, we work long. A lot of times we're alone. And guys, there's a solution right here for this group. And if you start to think and talk to this group, then when you go out to the bigger audience, you could visualize talking to this group, bring it down to a more focused, human, simple level. Everybody needs more energy. What happens when you have more energy? You can take your wife out dancing on Friday night. You can do 10 more reps, when you can run an extra mile. You can make 4 extra sales calls. I mean, what about life doesn't have to do with having enough energy to do the things it takes to be successful? I think you tie it back into that core, that becomes the nuclear engine that drives every good sales pitch, because it's true.
Wow, that's great. Thank
right
you,
on. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to give you my feedback now. Again, I know, we're all here to learn. We want to get you want to improve your skills and all that. So please take this as, love. Okay.
Sure.
So, all right. Just the reason I asked everyone if you can repeat what you said is I can't. There's no way. I did get some points, but most of it was just over my head, talking about carbohydrates and all these scientific words and things. You know, it was just, you know, nutrition, and I wasn't sure. I wasn't tracking where you were going with it. All I'm asking here, just a reminder, is just one sentence. All I want you to say is the big thing that you want to say. What is it? So if you can summarize what you just said, Lucia, what is it? What is the controversial fact that you wanted to share? Just in one.
It's going to be a long sentence.
Okay.
The most popular diets right now shun carbohydrates. Say carbohydrates are bad. But most people don't even know what carbohydrates are. And at the same time, we need carbohydrates specifically to help us to relax and to get good sleep, besides the fact that we need them for energy and other things.
Okay.
That's still a little bit too much, right?
Just a bit, but it's a lot better.
Okay.
And
I do have a quick question for Lucy, if I may. Lucy, were you ever out of shape? Because you look like you're in great shape now, but if you were ever out of shape, then you could bring that up and say, hey, I'm in really good shape now, but I wasn't always in good shape.
I wasn't always in as good a shape as I am now, that's for sure. But I've helped a lot of different people with a lot of different, hundreds of people with a lot of different problems, whether it be fitness or weight loss or other kind of clinical issues, health issues.
Right on. And what Mike said, you know, I agree 100% that, you know, and if you can use that as part of your story, that's great. It will definitely help. But let's stick to this exercise because I really want to make sure everyone gets this. And Mike, if you can do me a favor, just hold off on the extra feedback so we can stay on focus on our schedule. So, all right, here's what I would do, Lucy, is, you know, what you mentioned was it wasn't like really appealing to everyone. Lucy, did you get on here when we were talking about how to appeal to everyone versus just a narrow audience?
Yeah.
Okay. Because everyone on the radio, they're listening, and you know, it's affecting everyone. And the big media, it's all about everyone. Okay, you want to get to appeal to everyone. So I don't think everyone is thinking about carbohydrates or diets. You know, not everyone, right? Am I correct in that?
I don't know. Everyone I know is.
Okay.
But
fair enough, right?
But I get you.
So what you want to do is, if you're going to mention something like this, you want to, you know, you say most people, you know, don't think about this, but, you know, like kind of set it up in a way that you are aware that what you're about to say is going to go over most people's heads. You want to just say, pretty much put it into layman's terms, you know, and kind of think about explaining this to a third grader, you know.
Okay.
All right. But in any case, what you do want to do is make the list of 10 of each of these. Keep on building on that. All right. Make a huge list of all these. And there are going to be some that's just going to be like, what the heck is this? Like if you say to someone, they will, some people will say, oh, this is interesting. Or some people will say it's not. So with that information, you want to choose the things that appeal to everyone. And if it doesn't appeal to everyone, ask yourself, how can you reword it in a way that it does? Okay.
Got it.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. It's going to require a little bit of thought, I think, Omar.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks
well,
a lot.
it's really important, you know, like I said, just start making lists.
Okay.
And it can be with anything as well. It doesn't even have to be specifically about your like topic. It could be something somewhat related, whatever comes to mind, whatever something that you think is important for you to know as an authority in your industry. Okay.
Okay. I like that you said third grade level. That helps a lot.
Awesome. All right. So anyone want to share? We'll give one more chance for someone else to share. Let's go with something that is not a shocking stat or fact. I want to see if you guys can choose, a soundbite or, of course, everything has to be in concrete language if you can. But let's see if you can come up with a myth or
Hey, Omar, this is Chris.
Story.
I will.
Or skepticism. Go ahead, Mike. Curtis. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Hi, my name is Curtis. I am an award-winning author.
Hold on. I just want to stop you there real quick. Just to remind everyone what we're doing, Curtis, what we're doing here, we're just sharing one sentence, just one sentence. You don't have to introduce yourself. Just say one myth about your industry or some skeptical thing
Okay,
or
very good.
a story, etc. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Omar. Were you aware that 20% of the people in the United States have 89% of the wealth, while the remaining 80% has only 11% of the wealth?
All right. Thank you. So, Curtis, was that a shocking statistic? Is that what you're going for? Sounds like it. Okay. All right. So how about, let me get some feedback. You guys, was that interesting to you? Just raise your hand if it was. All right. And raise your hand if it was not really interesting to you. And how many of you are not going to raise your hand ever if I ask you anything? All right, cool. Well, all right, cool. So
I heard it before, so it's very familiar. That's why I didn't raise my hand for either one.
Right on. Yeah. So great, Curtis. That's a great example of that's a shocking statistic. I agree with Lucy. Actually, I did hear it before too, and so it's not really super interesting. But how does that? Let me ask you a follow-up question, Curtis. How does that stat affect the majority of the listeners, or affect anyone?
Well, the effect is increased awareness.
All right, let me reword that. So what is it so, what's so important about me knowing that, that you mention it? I mean, why should I know that?
If you are part of the 80%, you may want to know how to become part of the 20%.
Okay. I'm gonna let that one. I'm gonna let you keep on building on those facts. I really want to encourage everyone, of course, including you, everybody, to keep building on that list, because it's not strong enough. Just frankly, it's just not interesting enough for me. For anyone, for the majority of people. When I say me, I represent the listeners. Okay, so let me see. It is an interesting statistic, but I wouldn't say it's shocking. Let's just put it that way. And it's not controversial, so it's not shocking enough. So if you can make it, more personalized, bring it back to me. Why is that important to me? Then it might actually make sense for me. But just the fact alone, it does need to be a little bit more elaborated. As it is, I wouldn't say that was appealing to me. Okay. So anyway, but again, you guys, everyone can continue to just build on these. Let me get someone to say a myth. Does anyone have a myth in their industry or in their topic that you want to share that you can bust? For example, this is just to fill in the blanks. Most people believe that blank, but the truth is blank, right? Anyone want to give an example?
Dana has her hand up.
Okay. Go ahead, Dana. Just unmute yourself.
One thing that I learned today is the business canvas model is utilized worldwide for startup businesses, and that it is the most utilized tool. It's a myth in the sense that it is the foregone tool for starting a business. And I don't know how to say that other than it's
So
just,
Dana.
it's incomplete. Yeah.
Okay, so Dana, just fill in the blanks. Just
Okay.
most people believe something. Most people believe
Most people believe that they can start their business by utilizing the business canvas model.
But the truth is,
It's only a high level view. It's not a roadmap for starting your business.
Okay. All right.
And I don't know how many
get some
people
feedback.
know what the business canvas model is. So.
Okay, let's get some feedback from everyone. Does that sound interesting to you? Just raise your hand if it does. Just looking around real quick. All right, so pretty much nobody raised their hand. So Dana, what do you think? Why do you think it's not interesting? Just curious. I mean, why do you think you got that response from the listeners?
No, it's not the listeners. This is something that was brought to my attention today. The business canvas model, and I don't know how many people know this, okay, is the main tool that's used to introduce new business owners to the business model of their business.
Mm-hmm.
All right. But the problem with it is that it is based on assumptions. And that's not a solid foundation for starting a business.
Oh, okay. Huh. Okay.
And it's out of context, so that's just a myth. But
yeah, it's a myth. Yeah. So you just kind of got a little bit better. You got a little bit better because you're basically saying that most people who you want to, again, start it with a statistic, like where you learned this from. So, a source. So according to whatever source, most people believe that Business Canvas is the best way for you to explain your business model to a prospective investor, prospective investor. But the truth is, it's completely useless because, it doesn't actually share real information. It's all theory or something, right? Something along those lines. That's what you said, right, Dana?
Yeah, it's assumptions is what it is.
Yeah, it's all assumptions.
Yeah,
So,
it's.
Dana, hold on. So before you go on, I just want to let you get this. So. What I'm saying is, it's not about the. I'm not talking about your specific business canvas thing because that is your, topic. You can look it up. We can all look it up to learn more about it. But I'm just saying in general, what you want to do is be appealing to everyone listening, and that's one. You're targeting entrepreneurs. That's a big part of, there's a lot of people who will be listening that will be entrepreneurs that will get this, and maybe they're looking for investors. So that is that target audience. But for everyone else, you want to make it appeal to everyone. So
it's not something I would lead off with.
Sorry, say it again, Dana.
That's not something I would lead off with.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's not something I would lead off with. Yeah.
Right on. So anyhow, now with that said, you want to phrase it in the way like I have here. Most people believe blank, but the truth is blank. And then again, this is going to go onto your list right here. And you're going to see when you read it out loud to a group, you're going to see which of those are actually interesting or not. Okay. So you're going to turn that 10 into 3, and then that 3 into the number one biggest, most shocking statistic or myth bust that you're addressing. Okay. All right, cool. So does everyone get how this works? You guys make a list and you share it with someone, your friends, family, strangers, anyone, people in this group. If you want to network, connect with each other, become little study buddies, you can do that and just get feedback from them. Okay. And then again, next week, we're going to do this. I'm going to expect every single one of you to have more of these on a list. All right. And, next week, we're going to be sharing them out loud and getting feedback from everyone. We're also going to break up into groups. So make sure everybody gets a chance to get feedback. Right. So make sure you do this, you guys. It's super important. Do you have any questions?
Omar?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm going to do my homework, but next week I'm going to be traveling again. If I send it to you, can you get feedback?
Totally. Yes. Happy to do that.
Okay.
All right. So again, you guys, it's concrete language is important for everything. So any chance you can be concrete and specific versus abstract and general, it's, you're good. You're good to go. It's going to be more impactful. Okay. And, make a list of stories, skeptical questions. Let me just make a better thing here. This is going to be, I kind of put the wrong stuff here. This is actually better to post. I'm going to just clear this up real quick. Oh man, sorry. All right, these are more of those things that I mentioned. So the problems you solve, credibility, things that give you credibility. Make a list of those. Your story and how you got here, your unique solution, and call to action. What this is, and I'm showing you right now. These are things that you should touch on in your interview that would be good. So if you have these talking points, these are all talking points, things that you can come up with. Just make these lists. So these are some, just to elaborate or expand on what I just shared. So one of the things that wasn't mentioned is problems, your story, and your solution. That's kind of pretty much how you're explaining what you do, what your USP or UVP, and common myths, objection / skepticism. All right. So these are things that we would probably touch on in your interview. I know I had this other thing here. Fuck, jeez, here it is. So this is actually, I put in the wrong one, you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm all over the place here. All right. Here's the actual thing. All right. Skeptical questions. Make a list of skeptical questions, myths and misconceptions, shocking stats, problems, micro and macro, meaning how it affects someone individually on a small scale, macro, how it affects everyone on a big scale, and specific success stories about you or your clients. And sorry for confusing you guys. These are the things that you want to make a list on, okay? Just making sure everything's there. Cool. All right. So all of this is going to be helpful for the next call when we share and give feedback, okay? So let's get back. Let's get into the fun part here. Now, I appreciate everyone getting through this. So let me just post something. I'm going to hold on a sec, you guys. All right, so I'm going to post something here that should be very familiar to you who have been around. Okay. All right, you guys. I'm just putting this up for just to kind of give you some guide while we're interviewing you. So now we're transitioning to the interview fun, and Mike is going to interview you. You're going to just kind of introduce yourself, talk about what you do, how it appeals to the new economy. Use the training that you've been getting, okay? Practice what you've been learning from these last calls and what we covered today, all right? To try to, make your interview interesting, okay? For everyone. And just do your best. And I'm just putting this here because this is the golden template that everyone here should follow when you introduce yourself, all right? So when somebody asks you, what do? You don't tell them you are a real estate investor or you are a trainer, a coach, speaker, etc. You tell them what you did before and your experience, what gives you credibility, and then you talk about the problem that has occurred and how you're addressing that problem now with whatever you're doing, right? So you give them a little bit of a story background before you even bring up what you do. And you talk about the problems, talk about myths or whatever else, whatever you think you can throw in there to give yourself some practice of what we've been covering. You'll be good to go, okay? Again, this is all 100% practice. Some of it, we might end up, using it on your interview. But this is, again, just to get some feedback of what you are able to do. So with that said, I'm gonna transfer it over to Mike. Thanks for. Let me see what's going on here.
Quick question, Omar. Because we're pressed for time, I know we want to try to squeeze everybody in. I won't ask any follow-up questions this time, so we can try and get through everybody. Okay. So I'll just kind of ask the quick questions, set the stage, get the answer, and then we'll try and get some feedback. So. Okay,
that's great. Great idea. All right, so who wants to volunteer first? And if you don't volunteer, I'm going to pick on you, okay? Anyone? Just raise your hand if you do. Raise your hand if you want to go. Carl? All right. Okay, so we have Carl here. Mike, you want to go ahead and... there's some weird background noise. Somebody come from somewhere.
No, that was here. Hold on a second. Yeah, it should go away now.
Okay.
Storgren?
How do you pronounce it? Shergren, yeah.
Shergren, sorry. Okay. You ready, Omar?
Yep, we're ready.
Okay, hi, everybody. We're back on New Money Radio. We're talking about living and working in the new economy. Our guest now, Carl Shergren, who's got some noise behind him, but he can concentrate on telling us all what he's up to and what he's doing in the new economy. Carl, share with us what you're doing these days, living and working in the new economy.
Well, Mike, nice to be here. I've been a CFO in startup and turnaround companies in Northern California for about 30 years. And I've got a book out called The Fair Share Model. It's about an idea for a performance-based capital structure for companies that raise venture capital via an initial public offering, one that anyone can invest in. I call it the Fair Share Model because it balances and aligns the interest of investors and employees, or broadly speaking, capital and labor. One of the questions that people often ask me is, how is this different from crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding? I say equity crowdfunding is an innovation in how stocks are sold. The Fair Share Model is an innovation in how capital structures, how deals are structured.
Carl, who should get a hold of you and how do they reach you?
My website is fairsharemodel.com. And Carl at fairsharemodel.com works as an email.
Okay, question, Omar. Would it have been appropriate or helpful for me, as you're checking off the boxes, to ask Carl, well, Carl, how did you accomplish this? And, to kind of help him fill in some of the boxes?
Yeah, it would definitely be helpful. I mean, it's your show. You can decide that. But I do want to, give everyone the opportunity to kind of see if they remember it, without getting you prompted to it. But anyway, that's why I have this up here so everyone can see this while you're being interviewed, so you remember to be talking about these things. But I do want to give props, so let's just close that interview off for now, all right? So we can get others, but I want to get feedback. I did want to acknowledge Carl for bringing up some of the things that we talked about today. It's not necessarily on this list, but I heard the little bit of a USP, UVP. So I'm just going to put that on here because I did hear that. It's a little bit of that because you mentioned what most people, versus or how you compare to the current market out there. But anyway, let me just address the most important things are all of here. So if you're not mentioning this, you're not completing the formula to a very interesting, interview. Now I'm going to call on Melody because I know Melody knows this. I'm going to ask you something, Melody. Why is it important for us to say these things?
Because it helps to give us credibility and make us relatable to everybody in the audience. It gives us, it's linking the new, and it also allows us to be thought leaders as well with regard to the new economy.
Right on. Awesome. So you guys, to say that in other words, thank you, Melody, is you want to quickly get their attention. If, as soon as the interview starts, the first 10 seconds, the first 15, 20 seconds that you have is either going to get people to be listening, or it's going to get them to, tune out and not care about whatever you say, or not even give you credibility, give you they're not going to give you their time to hear more about what you do. So I didn't hear any specific accomplishments. I know you said 30 years experience, which is good, and you were a CFO, and also had nothing. There was no information about the new economy or information about the problem that occurred that has brought you to creating this book, to writing this book. So you want to mention why you wrote the book. What is the problem that you're solving in that book, And Carl, is this making sense? Because this is for you. I want to make sure that you're getting this.
Mm-hmm.
You have any questions?
No, it's just that there's always a little bit of time, and you're trying to figure out what is going to engage. And I had the feeling that by describing what the book covers, that it basically is offering a solution that makes the problem sort of self-evident. I didn't want to spend time describing the problem. Wanted to get directly into the solution.
Gotcha. And that's a big misconception, big myth that I'm going to bust, that most people think is, when they ask you, what do you do, or what's your deal? You assume that they don't care about the problem or that you solve as much as what you actually do. People tend to just answer right away what you do. You have this book and it does this, all the benefits, and that's it. But if you mention the problem first, the idea is that it's appealing to them. It's like, you've been doing this for a long time and you found that this problem has occurred and it's affecting you, all of you listeners, in this way, which is why I wrote this book. So then you have their attention first, before you even move on. So I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to actually give you an opportunity to do it again. And I want to make sure you get this. Even if it takes like a little more time, let's just make sure you got this, okay?
Okay.
So,
by the way, I can upgrade Adam. He just arrived. So, hi, Adam.
okay. So make sure you follow this structure, okay? I'm just going to keep this on here. And Mike, of course, you can help prompt him to it if it's necessary, okay? But Carl, this is for you.
Yeah, just to hit that problem, I think to compare it to crowdfunding was a great revolution, but so is your book and you've outlined. So if you kind of compare one big revolution to yours, I think it will get people's. That's one way to get some people's attention. Anyway, let's just see what comes out. And again, the more practice, the better, guys. So. Okay, we're back now with New Money Radio with Carl Shergren. Carl, welcome, and tell us what you're up to in the new economy.
Hi, Mike. Thanks. Nice to be here. So let me first tell you a little bit about myself. I've been a CFO for startups and turnaround companies in Northern California for about 30 years. And during that time, I've helped companies prepare to raise capital from investors or to improve their operating performance. Because the new economy has caused more and more people to be interested in entrepreneurship, either starting companies or working for one. And because of that, these are all companies that inherently rely on investor funds to operate because typically they're not profitable enough to fund their own operations. Because of that, more and more people are struggling with the idea of valuation. How do you determine the value of an idea? So in order to deal with, and one of the things that is sort of interesting is that most people think that venture capitalists are experts at assessing the value of a startup reliably, but they're not. What they know how to do is get the right terms to protect them from overpaying for a position in a company. That insight led me to write a book called The Fair Share Model. Fair Share Model is an idea for a performance-based capital structure for companies that seek to raise venture capital via an initial public offering. That's one in which anybody can invest in. I call it the Fair Share Model because it balances and aligns the interests of investors and employees, or capital and labor. One of the questions I'm often asked is, how does this compare to equity crowdfunding? The answer is that equity crowdfunding, the type that you see online and websites, is an innovation in how stocks are sold. The Fair Share Model is an innovation in how deals are struck, how they're structured.
Now, rather than using the time asking people or how people can get a hold of you, let me just comment. I thought that was just that was like a home run compared to the first. Now, if I was you, I would watch this video and think, okay, now how can I shorten it up? Because I thought you covered things really well. It was very cool. I liked it a lot, personally. But I thought it could have been probably cut in half. I think if you watch this video and really take notes, what can I say, and really cut to the chase faster, but I thought you covered it well. I thought you did a really good job.
Thanks.
Definitely, yeah, it's definitely, I agree 100%. It's a huge change from the last one. You did hit on all the points. You also threw in some new stuff, the myth bust, your unique selling point, your solution versus what the status quo is versus what's out there right now. Yeah, awesome. So real quick feedback. I'm going to give you my feedback with things you can improve on is in addition to making it more brief, I would cut to the chase, but the most important thing is to be more specific. So when you said, you helped, companies, like what kind of companies, or like what are some examples of some companies or whatever, and then accomplish what exactly, like be more specific. It was very generic, but just say at least one really big success story. So you've helped, whatever amount of people accomplish specific results, like, very specific. Like, for example, one of my clients actually got blah, 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 you know. So be very specific. What kind of success stories it is. And then so the main answer, the main thing, feedback is using concrete language. And, you know, you found that the new economy has caused this and that. I heard, you know, like very general answers, which is why I cannot repeat it back to you because nothing stood out to me, you know. So again, the way that you would summarize this and make it shorter is just have some very concrete facts ready, especially when you do those, make those lists. You're gonna have very concrete language and know exactly what are the talking points you want to share, and you know, just go through them, just like, you know, just hammer it out and leave out anything that's unnecessary. Okay. All right. So, Carl, yeah, again, just like Mike said, watch the recording. It will be more clear, hopefully. Okay. Is this helping you, Carl?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to hear that, because I mean, I want to make sure it's not going over your head or anyone's head. So any other feedback that anyone wants to share with Carl? Go ahead, Melody.
Yeah, I just posted my question in the chat. So you mentioned that in the new economy, there's more entrepreneurs, which is interesting. Probably in the audience, somebody knows somebody who is an entrepreneur in some fashion. But it sounds like there might be more lay people investing as well. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a public offering, anybody can invest.
Yeah, so that really makes it relatable to everybody. Suddenly, everybody that's listening could potentially become an investor. And it's not just that venture capitalists don't know how to raise money. You're going to actually show anybody how to evaluate a company that they could invest in.
Well, the fundamental question is, what's the value of an idea?
All right, Carl, what you just said there, that is a soundbite, okay? So write that on that list of sound bites. That's something you want to mention on your interview. And just to kind of expand on what Melody said, okay. I just want to just get this point out real quick is, entrepreneurs, people who self-proclaim as an entrepreneur, they are an entrepreneur, right? But everyone else who's not an entrepreneur, they're not going to care about what you say because you're only talking to entrepreneurs. So, but how many people have ideas? Pretty much everyone, right? So you can say, how many of you, now those of you listening, you might not be an entrepreneur right now, but maybe you have an idea for a business, and maybe it's something that you want to do. You're just not sure how to even get started. So now you're addressing everyone. Okay, so that's the one common thing that we all have in common is that we have ideas, and maybe an idea for an invention or an idea for some business or something, some way to make money, but you don't know, the next step. You don't know the first step or how to get investors. So anyway, just an idea, just some feedback I wanted to share with you. Take it or leave it, how you do it, with it, whatever you will. So I want to move on to someone else now to get some practice. Anyone want to step up to the plate now to get interviewed here? Go ahead and just unmute yourself if you do and speak up. If not, like I said, I'm going to pick on you. All right, Curtis, I'm choosing you.
All right.
Okay, cool.
I
so
felt
Curtis,
it coming.
You can see the screen here, right?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
Hey, Curtis.
So remember, all right, anyway, just keep in mind everything we've said, and pay attention to this board to help guide you with, your answers, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. We're back now with Curtis Banks. Curtis, welcome.
Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm well. Now, you've got an interesting new program, and I'd like to learn from you how you're helping people fit into the new economy with it.
Absolutely. Mike, for the last, sorry, we've got a bit of a lag there.
Just go ahead.
You're good.
Well, Mike, for the last 37 and a half years, I have worked in the technology industry in senior level positions, in addition to managing my own businesses and creating personal wealth. Over those years, I've helped a lot of people to create their own life plan, as well as improving their ability to manage the money they make. During that same period, over the last 5 years in working in the technology industry, I've helped the company to save over $200 million in terms of saving dollars from off their annual LRBP, or long-range business plan. I also came to the realization that many people manage their money at home very similar to what they do at work. And I began to teach people how to do a better job at home, and that same set of practices translates into the work. And as more and more people create their own businesses in addition to their working or quit working to start a business, what they do with managing their money at home, they do it in their business. In this new economy, I believe that it's very important for people to become better money managers so that they can manage their business as well as managing their home finances.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Because of all of this, I believe that in our industry, we've got to be more focused on teaching people to manage the money they make so that they can become better investors and building long-term wealth, as opposed to just managing bills and expenses.
Carl, anybody who's listening at home who's part of the 80% that doesn't have the majority of the money and are looking for a bridge to the 20% to join the group that does have the money, how do they reach out to you? How do they get hold of you?
I can be reached at moneymanagementbook.com website, or email me directly at curtis@moneysmarteducation.com.
Let me just jump in here with some quick feedback, guys. This is for everybody. When I started at NBC in New York, one thing that they told me was, look, everybody wants to listen to an expert. Even if you're not an expert, you need to sound like you are an expert. So, just keep that in mind, that, even if you don't feel like you're an expert, the more you sound like a drop dead mic drop expert, the better you are. You might know 1,000 times more than somebody that can sound like they just are on top of it. And yet people won't get that. You won't be able to help nearly as many people. And, there was a lot of kind of hemming and hawing, like you were kind of reaching and grasping for your thinking, when really it should be, that's why we're practicing, though, because you'll get there. And that's why we're doing this, so that this just becomes top of mind, but I loved your statistic. For me, it did hit home. I see you and that's why I said that. I see you as the bridge from the 80% who are the have-nots. You're the bridge to the 20% who are the haves.
Right on. Great.
Thank you, Mike, for the feedback.
Awesome. So let me see here. Just for the sake of saving us time, I'm going to share my feedback, and then we'll open up to others. Real quick, the thing that as you see what I wrote here. First off, again, I agree with Mike. You did really good by explaining things. It's just making it more more quick and off the cuff, not having to think too much about what you're going to say. But anyway, with that aside, there's also, I want to give you props on mentioning some really specific, concrete examples of success. You mentioned saving a company. I think, I don't remember what company. It might have been Boeing. I'm not sure if you said that, but I know you worked for that company. So I'm assuming it was, and you saved them over, like, I don't know, millions. How many millions did you say? You said actual number?
I said 200 million over 5 years.
Yeah, that's insane. 200 million in 5 years. That's why I made this really big, huge check mark, because that's awesome. That is your number one, at least one of the top three for sure. All right. As far as credibility. All right. So that's great. And you said, everything else spot on. All right. What you did, how many years. I would make it a little more fluent, because that was that's what if you listen to the recording, what Mike was mentioning, it was a bit of a stumble to mention the specifics. But anyway, moving on to this part, this is one of the most important, crucial parts. It's because we're talking about the new economy on our radio show. So it's all about what kind of problems the new economy has caused. All right. And if you go to the first call we've had, first and second, you'll get this a little more. It's, that's the main thing. This is the core of the whole entire program. If you can talk about how the new economy has changed your industry, what kind of problems has the new economy caused in your industry, then that puts you in that cutting edge status. Like, what's going on. You're in the know. So that is what positions you as a leader in your industry. But what you did do instead of talking about the new economy, you talked about personal problems. So I'll give you points for that. Talking about how, people you found that people, they manage their money the same way they manage their business money, etc. But none of that is relevant to our show, or and it's a very narrow audience too. Not many people care about that. It's just not, in my opinion. I mean, if you think about it, if you say that to a third grader, are they going to care about what you just said? Most likely not really. All right. And then the other thing is elaborating on this problem. Because of that problem, these are the symptoms. Because of the change that the new economy has made, all of these problems happening, it's caused people to, blank. Like, what are the symptoms? It's caused them to, struggle more or whatever, So these here were missing. And the now I gave you half a point because it wasn't really clear enough. If you listen to the recording, you'll see, hopefully, that it's not, none of this led up to the solution. It wasn't clear what you're doing about the problem, and how it's helping people, etc. It was just, I gave it a half a point, right? And of course, I'm being a little, very straightforward, because I want to make sure you get this, the first time, and I'm not going to be, beating around the bush or whatever, trying to be polite and stuff. And so, and I know, Curtis, I know that you can take the feedback. So anyway.
Yes, good feedback. Thank you.
And Curtis, the most important thing is this actually making sense? And is this like resonating with you? Are you able to use this to improve?
Yes, it does. It makes sense, and I am using it.
All right, cool. Okay, so we are about to wrap up soon, but let me give you guys an opportunity to give any more feedback to Curtis. All right.
I got a quick feedback.
Yeah, Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, so awesome job, Curtis. Sorry, everyone, that I was late. So I think for Curtis and for Carl, a little bit more like talk back and forth, like feeling natural, having a conversation, I think is easier to listen to on the radio, and a little bit more interesting. So, it was almost like a, monologue kind of on both of them, I thought, a little bit. Right on.
That's a good point. Thank you for sharing, Adam. And it's a little bit of an advanced kind of skill. So, I mean, if you're not ready for it, it's fine. It's just, that is definitely true that we do want you to kind of play along and kind of go back and forth with the interviewer. But anyway, for this example, we were just, kind of, practicing. So it's not really a big deal. But it's super important. That is true. If you can, like, give a pause and just, or ask, for example, here are some ways. I'm going to give you an advanced tip, you guys, if you guys can just bear with me for a little bit. I'll try to make this brief, but here's the advanced ninja trick to do this. It's real simple. Just like when you have a conversation with anyone, you're not constantly talking and like not letting them talk, right? Hopefully not, right? So when you talk to someone, you have these things, these little verbal cues of right, or, like just things to relate to them, like right, or, you know what I mean? Or, you right? Isn't that how it is? Just kind of asking them for kind of confirmation that they understand that they're following you, right? And that they can agree. Just by throwing those little things in there, get the interviewer to say something, yeah, totally, that's totally right. And then, you can continue on to whatever you want to say. That's just one little tip, one way you can do it. Again, it's a little advanced. So anyway, hope it does help someone out there. Okay. All right. Now, there was some more feedback. Someone else had something else.
Melody.
Yeah, go ahead, Melody.
Okay, I'll make it quick too. Curtis, I thought you sounded like an expert and very credible, and the success story of $200 million is mind-blowing. But I think that what you really do for people is you bring prosperity to anybody, right? And I didn't really hear you touch on that. I heard you touch on like the problems that we have, which is part of the new economy. But I think that you'll really perk up some ears when you touch on the fact that you can help anybody to become prosperous.
That is powerful. Thank you.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, I was going to try to type that up, but what I see, in other words, this might also kind of click some things for you. That was great, Melody. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so glad, because this puts you in a whole different level than, pretty much anyone else in that industry, I think. I don't know any other money managing trainers can say that they have saved a Fortune 500 company $200 million in 5 years, right? So like by saying that and then making it relative to the average listener, I was able, if you're able to do that for the big company, and you've seen that it appeals the same way to the average person, how they manage their money. It's just with some special skills that you have that you can share with them. Using these skills, they're able to, save, lots of money for themselves and, build wealth, etc. So it's like, bringing your professional experience to a more like personal level to appeal to everyone, I don't know. Does
I like it.
Okay, cool. I really hope that this is helpful for everyone listening, not just the people practicing. Let me just get some feedback. I can see you guys. Just nod your head if this is helping you. If this is good, you got this. Okay, good. All right.
Yes.
All right. So we're gonna wrap it up, and a couple little quick announcements. We're going to let one more of these calls be an open house. So some people are here without being actual paid members, and you're a guest. It's great to have you. It's great to have you participate and add value to it, to these calls. But we need to close off the open house so we can give more attention to all the, the paying members. So with that said, next week will be the final one. This is an official announcement. And if you have any friends, colleagues, partners, clients that would benefit from this, definitely bring them next week. Let them see the recording from this call so they can get caught up. And then next week, they'll be really ready. And with that said, if you are not a member, go to infopreneuragency.com/media-mentor. I'll put the link in the chat box. If you want to join, the price is going to keep on going up by $100 every week until July, when we completely close it off and we launch it to the mass, the mass. Let me just put that link in here. So again, it's infopreneur.agency.com/media mentor. That will give you the best price that is available right now. And if you're not yet caught up with new economy stuff, you also get as a bonus access to the New Economy Chamber of Commerce, where it's all focused about the new economy, talking about things that you can about your industry, things that you can mention on our radio show and in general that really puts you in in the big leagues as an industry leader. Okay, you have the access there. Mike has the link for that. For those calls are on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. If you can make it to those, it's really good. And yeah, with that said, remember your assignment, you guys, is to make those lists. Okay, so make those lists, all the stats, all the myths, all those talking points. Start making those lists and use concrete language. And next week we're going to build on that and help you choose which of those talking points are really worth mentioning. All right. So with that said, thank you guys, everyone. Again, have a great rest of your week. Same time, same place next week. We'll see you there. And let us know if you have any questions. All right.
Thanks, Omar.
Have a good night.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.